Aman Kansa woke up that morning feeling on top of the world. The sun was streaming into her apartment in Accra, and she had a big smile on her face, thinking about the new business deal she had just closed. Everything seemed perfect. She brewed her coffee, checked her emails, and then, out of habit, opened her bank app to confirm a routine transfer. Her stomach dropped the second she saw the numbers. $500,000. Gone. Her hands shook as she refreshed the app, thinking it must be a mistake. Maybe the bank had an error, she told herself. But when she dug deeper, tracing the transaction, her heart sank even more. The money had been withdrawn, and the shocking part? The withdrawal came from her sister, Abina. Amma stared at her phone, unable to breathe for a moment. Abina, her own sister, the one she had shared childhood secrets with, the one she had trusted more than anyone, had taken $500,000 from her account. Panic, disbelief, and anger collided inside her. How could someone so close, someone she loved, betray her like this? Questions raced through her mind. Was it a desperate move? Calculated plan? And worst of all, had she unknowingly trusted the wrong person all along? As the initial shock faded, a fierce determination started to rise. Amma knew she couldn't panic. She had to act fast but smart. This wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal, trust, and proving that no one, not even family, could take her down without facing the consequences. Amma and Abina grew up in a household where life always felt like a competition. Their parents, without even meaning to, played favorites. Abina was the golden child in many ways. Charming, outgoing, and always the center of attention at family gatherings. People loved her easy smile and the way she seemed to know everyone. Amma, on the other hand, was quieter, serious, and determined. She buried herself in her books, excelled in school, and dreamed of building something of her own. From a young age, Amma noticed the little things that set them apart. Praise was always louder for Abina's achievements, while Amma's hard work was quietly acknowledged, if at all. She learned to step back, to let her sister shine, even though it stung. But instead of letting jealousy consume her, Amma turned it into motivation. She studied harder, learned faster, and started experimenting with small business ideas while still in university. By her mid-20s, Amma had quietly built a small but growing business empire. She didn't flaunt it, she didn't need to. She kept her finances and success separate from family drama, knowing that independence was her ultimate power. She loved Abina despite their differences. She had always hoped that her sister's occasional envy would stay harmless, that they could remain close no matter what. But over the years, Amma had learned to read the signs. Abina's jealousy sometimes surfaced in small, subtle ways. Dismissive comments, half-jokes about Amma's ambitions, or the occasional thinly veiled attempt to one-up her. It never bothered Amma too much. She thought it was just normal sibling rivalry. But nothing had ever prepared her for the kind of betrayal she was about to face. This wasn't just teasing or competition anymore. This was personal, and it was about to hit Amma harder than anything from their childhood could have warned her about. Amma could barely think straight as she dialed her bank's hotline. Her hands were trembling, her mind racing a million miles an hour. When the customer service agent finally picked up, she explained the situation, trying to keep her voice steady. That's when the truth hit even harder. Abina hadn't just taken the money impulsively, she had found a loophole in the system. A clever, calculated way to transfer the funds without raising an immediate alarm. It wasn't a mistake or an accident. This was deliberate. Amma felt a cold wave of betrayal wash over her. Her sister had planned this, and the realization stung worse than she expected. It wasn't just about the money, it was personal. Someone she trusted, someone she had loved and protected, had turned against her with precision. Her mind spun. Did Abina fully understand the damage she could cause? Could she ruin Amma's business in one swoop? Could she waste the money, leaving Amma in financial ruin? Panic threatened to take over, but Amma forced herself to breathe. She had faced challenges before. Big deals, tight deadlines, tricky negotiations. But this was different. This was family. And yet she realized that the rules hadn't changed. To fix this, she needed clarity, patience, and strategy. She couldn't react emotionally, she had to act smartly. Sitting at her kitchen table, coffee forgotten and phone still in hand, Amma began to map out her plan. First, gather all the facts. Every transaction, every loophole, every piece of evidence she could find. Next, think ahead. How to protect her business, secure her remaining assets, and make sure Abina couldn't take more. Every move had to be calculated, precise, and airtight. Even in that moment of shock, a spark of determination lit inside her. This wasn't just about recovering money. It was about reclaiming control. proving her strength and showing that betrayal, no matter how personal, could not defeat her. Amma knew it would be a battle, but one she was ready to fight with intelligence, patience, and courage. And deep down she felt a strange calm settle over her. She wasn't just a victim, she was about to turn the tables. Amma took a deep breath and dialed Abina's number. Her fingers shook slightly, but she forced herself to stay calm. When her sister picked up, her voice was sweet, soft, almost innocent. "Amma, I'm so glad you called," Abina said, her tone full of fake concern. "I had an emergency. I just had to borrow some money. I didn't know how else to handle it." Amma felt a rush of disbelief. Borrow? Emergency? $500,000? She could hear the calm confidence in Abina's voice, the way she tried to make it sound like nothing serious, like it was just a small favor between sisters. But Amma wasn't fooled. She could sense the lie in every carefully chosen word, every pause, every too cheerful laugh. Anger bubbled up inside her, hot and sharp. How dare her sister speak to her like this, after taking so much, after betraying her trust in the worst way possible? She wanted to shout, to cry, to let all the hurt and rage spill out. But as the words formed in her mouth, Amma caught herself. Yelling wouldn't solve anything. Pleading wouldn't bring the money back. She needed more than anger, she needed a plan, a way to outsmart Abina completely. Amma listened to Abina for a few more minutes, letting her speak, pretending for a moment to be concerned, even compassionate. Inside she was already plotting. She made mental notes. Every excuse, every attempt to justify the theft, every tone of manipulation. It was all evidence, all proof that Abina had acted intentionally. When she finally hung up, her heart was pounding, but a clear thought settled in her mind. This was bigger than a family fight. This was about strategy, about intelligence, and about showing that betrayal, even from someone you love, wouldn't win. Amma knew that to reclaim her money she couldn't just react emotionally. She had to be smart, patient, and precise. And in that moment her anger transformed into resolve. Amma wasn't just angry, she was ready. She was ready to take every step carefully, to plan every move, and to make sure that by the end of this, Abina would realize she had underestimated her completely. Amma knew she couldn't fight this battle alone. Abina's betrayal was personal, but it was also smart and calculated. She needed allies, people who could see the situation clearly and help her take the right steps without letting emotions take over. So she started quietly, making discreet calls to the people she trusted the most. First she spoke with her lawyer. Amma explained everything in detail, from the stolen money to the suspicious way the transaction had gone through. Her lawyer listened carefully, asking the right questions, and then laid out the options. "This isn't just theft," he said. "It's calculated, and there are clear legal ways to protect your assets and make sure she can't do this again." Just hearing those words, Amma felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't helpless. Next she reached out to her financial advisor. They went through her accounts, her investments, and her business finances. Together they mapped out exactly what Abina had taken and what could be safeguarded. "We can secure your remaining funds immediately," the advisor said, "and set up measures so she can't touch another cent." Amma nodded, taking careful notes. Every number mattered. Every detail counted. Finally she spoke with her business partners, people who had always respected her instincts and judgment. She shared just enough to make them understand the gravity of the situation without creating unnecessary panic. They offered advice, support, and even contingency plans. It was reassuring to know she wasn't facing this alone. Through these conversations, Alma realized something important. This wasn't a moment to act impulsively. Every step had to be calculated, precise, and backed by facts. She had to outsmart Abina at every turn, not just emotionally but strategically. And as she walked through each step with her team, a plan started to take shape in her mind. A plan that would not only reclaim her money but also make it clear that betrayal would never go unpunished. For the first time since that terrible morning, Alma felt a spark of calm confidence. She wasn't just angry or hurt anymore. She was ready. Ready to take the next steps, ready to turn the tables, and ready to show Abina that underestimating her was the biggest mistake her sister had ever made. Alma knew she had to be clever. If she wanted to get her money back, she couldn't just confront Abina again. She needed to turn the tables. So she came up with a plan, subtle but powerful, one that would make Abina reveal her true intentions without even realizing it. She started by acting frantic. Alma posted vague messages on social media about her business needing urgent investments, hinting that things were tight. She called a few friends and partners, dropping hints about possible financial struggles. But it was all carefully controlled. Every word, every detail was designed to make Abina think Alma was vulnerable. In reality, Alma had already taken steps to secure her accounts and protect her assets. Every backup, every safeguard was in place. The thrill, and the danger, was in the deception. Alma watched as Abina began to move, plotting her next steps. She could feel the tension rising, almost like a chess game where every piece mattered. Abina thought she saw an opportunity, that Alma was weak and distracted. But every action she took only played into Alma's hands. Alma stayed calm on the outside, even when her heart raced. She pretended to worry about the money, about new investments, about risks she didn't really have. It was exhausting to maintain the act, but she knew patience would pay off. Each message she sent, each casual comment she dropped, was a trap. Abina's greed and envy were doing the work for her, guiding her right into Alma's plan. By the end of the day, Alma could see it clearly. Abina was falling for the bait. She was overconfident, careless, and already planning her next move without knowing the walls were closing in. Alma smiled quietly to herself. This wasn't just about reclaiming stolen money. It was about showing that intelligence and strategy could outsmart even someone as cunning as her sister. Alma felt a mix of excitement and relief. Finally, after days of shock, fear, and planning, she had taken control. Abina's betrayal had started a game, but Alma was the one now holding all the cards. And she knew that when the time came, she would end it on her terms, powerful, unshakable, and victorious. Alma knew the next step had to be bold. She couldn't just wait for Abina to make a mistake. She had to create one that would trap her completely. That's when she decided to go public. Alma crafted a post for social media, announcing a major new partnership with an investor she had been working with quietly for months. Every word was intentional. She highlighted transparency, security, and the steady growth of her business. It was a celebration, but also a subtle warning. The post went live, and almost immediately, Alma could feel the shift. Abina, who still thought Alma was vulnerable, saw it as an opportunity. Maybe she could interfere again, maybe she could manipulate or siphon off more funds. But Alma had thought of everything. Every action Abina could take was already traceable, documented, and backed up. Emails, screenshots, transaction logs. All of it was ready to serve as proof of her sister's intent. Alma watched as Abina started moving, overconfident and careless. Every comment, every attempt to meddle, was exactly what Alma had been waiting for. By going public, she had created a transparent, undeniable record of her own position and the security surrounding her business. She had made it impossible for Abina to claim ignorance or act without leaving evidence. There was a sense of satisfaction in knowing she wasn't just protecting herself financially, she was creating a legal and public shield. Abina's greed and pride were doing all the work. The more Abina tried, the more obvious her betrayal became. Alma stayed calm, her public persona cheerful and confident, masking the intense focus underneath. For the first time in days, Alma felt truly in control. The tables had turned completely. Abina, who had once made her feel powerless, was now the one trapped by her own actions. And Alma knew that when the time came to confront her, she would have every proof needed to reclaim what was hers and make her sister face the consequences. Alma smiled quietly, sipping her coffee. The viral post wasn't just about business. It was about strategy, power, and making sure betrayal would never go unpunished. She had set the stage perfectly, and the game was now fully in her hands. Alma knew the moment of truth had arrived. She sent a casual message to Abina, inviting her to a family meeting, careful to make it sound friendly and normal. Inside, however, Alma had everything prepared. She was calm, collected, and confident, and she was secretly recording every word. When Abina arrived, she was full of her usual charm, trying to act casual, maybe even superior. She started talking, bragging about her cleverness, explaining her emergency, and justifying what she had done. Alma listened quietly, letting her speak, every smirk and excuse becoming part of the record she had built. Abina didn't suspect that her words were being captured perfectly, every lie documented for the moment it would matter most. Then Alma spoke. Calm, steady, and deliberate, she laid out everything. She showed the evidence, the transfers, the loophole Abina had used, the trails she had left behind. She explained the legal steps she had already taken, the safeguards around her business, and the financial consequences Abina now faced. Every word Alma said hit with precision, leaving no room for excuses or denial. Abina's confident smile began to falter. Panic flickered in her eyes. She realized, too late, that every move she had made had been tracked, anticipated, and countered. The sister who had once held all the power, who had taken what she wanted without hesitation, was suddenly the one exposed and vulnerable. Amma's calmness made it worse. The more serene and controlled she seemed, the more Abina's guilt and fear grew. Amma kept her voice gentle but firm, showing that she was not angry in the way Abina expected. She wasn't yelling, pleading, or crying, she was in command. Every detail she revealed reinforced one undeniable fact: the tables had turned completely. By the time the conversation ended, Abina was pale and speechless. Amma had done more than confront her sister. She had taken control, demonstrated her intelligence, and made sure that Abina understood the gravity of her betrayal. In that quiet, tense room, Amma felt a sense of triumph settle over her. This was justice, calm but undeniable, and Abina had nowhere left to hide. After the confrontation, Amma's lawyer moved quickly. Legal papers were filed, claims were made, and the pressure was on. Abina could no longer hide behind lies or excuses. Under the weight of the evidence Amma had gathered, she returned a portion of the stolen funds almost immediately. The rest was secured directly through the bank, protected so that there was no way for her to take even a single dollar more. Amma felt a wave of relief but also pride. She hadn't just recovered her money, she had done it with strategy, intelligence, and patience. Every careful step she had taken, from gathering allies to setting the trap, had paid off. The process had shown her that even when someone close betrays you, thinking ahead and acting wisely can completely change the outcome. Meanwhile, her business continued to thrive. Deals she had been working on moved forward smoothly, and her partnerships grew stronger. Amma became even more respected in her field, not just for her entrepreneurial skills, but for the way she handled a personal crisis with grace and control. People admired how she had turned a devastating betrayal into an opportunity to demonstrate strength and leadership. Abina, on the other hand, was left to face the consequences of her actions. She had learned a hard lesson about envy, trust, and the limits of deceit. Amma didn't gloat, she didn't need to. The justice of the situation spoke for itself. The stolen money was back where it belonged, her business was safe, and her peace of mind was intact. For Amma, this chapter became more than just about money. It was proof that family rivalry and envy don't define who you are or what you can achieve. With intelligence, calm strategy, and determination, even the worst betrayal can be turned into a story of triumph. And as she looked ahead, Alma felt stronger than ever, confident that no one, not even a sister, could take her down again. After everything was settled, Alma finally took a moment to breathe. She thought back to that awful morning when she had discovered the $500,000 was gone, to the shock, fear, and anger she had felt. Now, looking at how far she had come, she realized something important. This ordeal hadn't broken her. It had made her stronger. Her resilience, patience, and independence had grown in ways she hadn't imagined. She decided to celebrate quietly, surrounded by close friends who had supported her throughout the drama. They toasted to her victory, not just the money she had recovered, but the sense of control she had regained over her life and her business. The celebration was modest, but it felt powerful. For Alma, this was about more than material success. It was about peace of mind, confidence, and the knowledge that she could handle anything life threw at her. As for Abina, the experience had changed her too. Humbled, cautious, and thoughtful, she began to understand the consequences of envy and betrayal. The lesson was hard but necessary, and Alma didn't need to remind her. The justice had spoken for itself. Alma's story didn't stay private for long. Friends shared it, colleagues talked about it, and soon it spread online. People were inspired by how she had turned a devastating betrayal into a lesson in strategy, intelligence, and courage. Young women across Africa read about her determination, her calm strength, and how she had outsmarted someone close who tried to take everything from her. Alma smiled as she scrolled through messages of support and admiration. She knew her journey wasn't just about herself anymore. It was about showing that even when life hits you hard, you can rise stronger, smarter, and fearless. And that was the real triumph.